All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Simply Finance with Shane White. I'm stoked today to have Jordan DeCicco back on the podcast. Jordan, welcome to the show.
Shane, man, thank you so much. Pleasure to be back. Excited for the conversation. And again, appreciate you for doing this as always.
100%. Thanks for taking the time. I forgot to mention too before we started recording. I apologize. I'm like sweating here. It's because I thought it'd be a smart idea to try to fit a workout in really quick before we hopped on, and I decided to kill myself. So
Yeah,
I'm like
I respect it.
sweating over here trying to do a podcast.
I respect it. And I've been in your position. We put a weight room in the new office for that reason. So I
I
get it.
saw that. Yeah, is that just you guys can get a pump in during work kind of thing?
Yeah, we travel a ton, right? And generally we like to get up early and get our workouts in. I'm usually 5 a.m., 5:30. But throughout the day, if you want a little break from meetings, or if you're getting on a flight and you won't, get a
Yeah,
workout tomorrow morning, the next morning, you try to get a double workout in just to feel good, right? Like you just want to feel better. That's what working out is for us. Obviously, it helps you look better and you like to stay in shape, but we just feel so much better. Our energy levels are higher when we're well exercised and eating well. So we try to do that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And you guys have always been, and obviously because the brand helps with this too. You guys are you all three of you and your two brothers? Are you guys still doing like keto and all that stuff?
I would say we're very keto aware. And we try to um eat low carb, but we're never really in ketosis. I mean, we lose we would lose way too much weight. I've done it for
Okay.
real. And
Yeah.
I just I just shred too much weight. I mean, when you're working out every day, and we do a lot of conditioning because we like to run, we play hoops, play football as well. Um, it's hard to do keto because you're just burning so much, you're burning so much fat,
Sure.
drop a ton of weight. So we'll still test it every now and then just to feel better. We'll do like 24 36 hour fast, which will kick us into ketosis, but then we'll get out of it real quick. That's just like a little reset. But then otherwise probably um again, not eating too many carbs, but working them in throughout the week just to not shed so much weight.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Totally makes sense. Um, for everyone listening who doesn't know who Jordan is, I think I skipped right over that. So Jordan is one of the co-founders of Super Coffee, which if any of you have, been living under a rock for the last few years, Super Coffee
Yeah.
is one of the nation's largest ready to drink coffee brands, and not just ready to drink anymore. You guys do a variety of different coffee products, right? So um, it was interesting because I wanted to have Jordan back on. We chatted a little over a year ago the first time. You guys had just finished a round of funding. And really, I felt like the theme of our first conversation was really around for lack of better words, just uncertainty around COVID. And at that point, I think you remember like sampling had kind of stopped, and that was like so important for Super Coffee at that time.
Huge. Yep.
And so I'm sure you guys have, and what I've seen in the market, you guys have certainly pivoted in a lot of ways. So maybe just to start out, like, could you walk everyone through after our conversation, really up till now, like what has COVID been like? I mean, there's a ton of things we'll talk about today, but you guys have moved. I mean, you've grown your team, which has been remarkable.
Yep.
What was COVID like? I mean, it's not over yet, but I guess, the beginnings and really most of 2020.
Yeah. So I think just context from, the brand from a high level and then where we were at in that conversation. And then we'll get into the past, 12 months. But, um, we started in 2016. We're the Inc.'s fastest growing food and beverage company in 2020. So leading up to 2020. Um, and we built the team to about 75 people at that point in time. And, we're doing, about 70 million in revenue at that time. So we're going into 2020, right? Like uh, we're on fire, right? Like
Yeah.
we're one of
Oh
the
yeah.
fastest, not just one of the fastest growing brands today, but of all time, if you look at just the compounded annual growth rate. So we feel great. We're getting ready to raise a big Series B round of funding at the time. Um, and all of a sudden, and come February, COVID hits and kind of flips the world on its head. And our strategy, by the way, just the industry really well, but 80% of our business is done in retail,
Yeah.
20% online through our website and Amazon. But and we built the brand as we were competing with Coke and Pepsi because they own the shelf. So we hire a lot of sales reps, a lot of part-time sales reps as well. And we work with distributors who are in stores all day, every day, right? Interacting with customers, interacting with partners, pouring samples on the weekends because we don't have a multi-million-dollar marketing budget.
Right.
Got to get liquid to lips is what we say to get people to try it, because if we can convince somebody, hey, this has 80 calories, 0 sugar, 10 grams of protein, tastes like a Starbucks, and costs the same, like, would you buy it? Right.
Yeah. Right.
Usually it's like, yeah, like, hell yeah, I'll give that a try. So that's how we built the brand. When COVID hit, all of that went away. Right.
And
Everything.
I remember not to cut you off, but I remember when leading into our conversation really in COVID, I mean, I felt like you guys were the kings of sampling. Like you guys just had like these wild displays and you were everywhere.
Yeah, we definitely took a lot of pride, put a lot of time, energy, effort personally, right? Because when we started, we were the ones doing our own manufacturing, we were doing our own distribution, and at the end of the distribution day, we'd go back and pour samples, and then we do it on the weekends, right? So we
Yeah.
saw firsthand how important and impactful it was. We wanted to scale the brand that way, and even today, we're starting to get back to it. The Delta variant is slowing it down, but we're getting back to our roots a little bit more. But when COVID hit, flipped things upside down, and we had to kind of take a look at the business. That first thing we said was, look, we believe that it's going to take a long time. We didn't think it was going to come and go. We did, some homework on it, but we did commit to no furloughs or layoffs, for at least the foreseeable future, which at that point we believed would be forever, which was
Yeah.
true. We haven't done any furloughs or layoffs in the past year.
Wow.
So
That's, I mean, just right there. That's congrats on
yes,
that. I mean, that's a huge
thank you.
accomplishment. I can't tell any companies that are not in that boat.
Yeah, and we're blessed and grateful because we decided to invest in our team. So even when sales took a hit, and they did, right, they did take a hit for sure. We believed in our team, and their ability to show up, and people who felt unsafe, right? If obviously there was no sign of vaccinations back then, right? Like they were risking their lives. We started paying people more money actually.
Oh,
So we
wow.
we were paying people more to go out there, risk their health, their family's health. Um, but we promised them that you'd have a job here. Obviously if people refused, we tried to repurpose them in terms of their roles, not repurpose them, but put them into another role where they could be successful as well. And then some people decided to leave, right? If they didn't feel comfortable or safe, they did decide to leave. And that was a big part of last year as well. And that's okay too, right? We want people to feel comfortable and safe at all times.
Sure.
But at the same time, right, we can't afford, forever for people to not go out and help us grow the business together. So it was really challenging. It's a fine balance every day. We just try to keep the team engaged over the past 12 months, and take care of them as much as possible financially, but then also emotionally, mentally, making sure, we have unlimited PTO for everybody. So making sure people were taking breaks, taking rest, taking breathers.
It was
Staying
tough
safe.
during that time too, because you just like woke up and went to bed. You're in the same house and you worked and you
Right.
exercised. A lot of
There was
people,
no
it was no break.
and no light at the end of the tunnel either, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there really wasn't. It was easy to lose hope, easy to feel defeated at times. And I think as small business owners, founders, we felt that weight and that pressure, but we leaned on each other and we leaned on our team, and that's ultimately what helped us get to this point, which a year later we just closed our Series C, which I'm sure we'll talk about, and doubled the
Wild.
size of the team, doubled revenue, more than doubled revenue, and hopefully continue to grow at that rate. So we're excited, we're grateful and fortunate. Obviously, still dealing with the pandemic. Don't want to overlook that at all. But we think we've figured out a better way to maneuver and be dynamic throughout it.
Sure. And one of the things I love about you guys always preach the like, positive energy. How did you guys, one of the questions I thought would be interesting to ask you is it seemed just from my own personal experience, and I know lots of people would probably say this, is like during the pandemic, it was really hard to keep culture. Like, you go from like being in an office where like culture's everything to everyone being remote. Did you feel like you guys were pretty successful at keeping the culture alive and delivering that? And if you did, like, how do you think you guys did that?
Yeah. So I think we'll start at culture happens every day, no matter what, right? Like culture, we define culture as the collective personality of
Mhm.
everyone in the organization. And it happens every day. So no matter what, if you know it or not, right? If you define it or not, culture is there, it's happening, right? People are defining you, and that is the culture of the organization. And you asked about positive energy, and that's just so authentic to who we are. And when we started the company, we didn't define our purpose, we didn't define our mission, we didn't define our culture and our values, which I believe every founder and company should do immediately. Looking back on it, because you got to be clear and you got to be authentic. But what we did was, a year later or 2 years in, actually, we were preparing to go on Shark Tank, actually, and we were getting ready to do a rebrand. We finally had money to pay for branding, and we didn't. Again, I dropped out of school after my freshman year. My brothers didn't go to school for marketing or branding in any sense, so we didn't have this background or experience. But what the branding team did, the agency, which was helpful, was just like, who are you guys, right? Like, at your core, who are you? And like, we've never been asked that before, right?
Sure.
We're just like out here hustling coffee, you know what I mean? But they're like, why, right? And we're like, what do you mean, why? Like, we're trying to build a great company. And they're like, yeah, but why? So like those types of like deeply philosophical questions.
Sure. Was this
Really
back
help.
when you guys were called Suniva, or was
Yeah,
this?
exactly. When we were
Yeah.
going from Suniva to a rebrand, because we were like having an identity crisis because we didn't do this work, right? This is
Got
like
it. Yeah.
hard, mundane work. You can't just do things because you think they're the right thing to do, right? You have to have, some logic and really well thought out strategy and plans. And so we sat down and put in a lot of time and energy and effort into defining our purpose, mission, vision, values for the brand, which would ultimately define our culture, right? Those things define the culture if you live up to them. But because we did it looking backward instead of looking forward, we actually just defined what we were already doing. We didn't set they are also aspirational, but I think a lot of companies fool themselves, right? Where they put their values on the wall and they're like, these are our values. This is who we want to be.
Yes.
And then literally 30 minutes after the meeting, they're doing something completely, opposed to those values.
Sure. I've seen that.
So where instead we just labeled the things that we were doing. Like, what do we actually value? Well, it's like, and we'll talk about our core values right now, is we like to have what we call a coach mindset. And coach is an acronym that stands for curious, optimistic, ambitious, compassionate, and humble.
I love that.
Those are our values. And we were like, well, what is our purpose? And we were like, well, we really like treating people well. We're removing negatives and putting in positive ingredients. We want people to feel good. We want to help people be the best versions of themselves. Our purpose isn't to sell coffee or even build a great company. Our purpose is to mass produce positive energy. And that's where positive energy came from.
Love that.
Stake in the ground of we're here to mass produce positive energy. That's why we wake up. How do we do that? We live up to these core values. Our mission is to do this on a global scale, and we really want to measure that too. We want to put in benchmarks. The mission should really feel like a goal. It's a far out goal. And then a vision as well for the brand. Like, where do we want to be in 30, 40 years? And how do we want to show up globally? So these are like the key elements in general, but really for us that we've honed in on, that we've surrounded the culture around. And what I mean by that is all of our hires, right? Like, we benchmark them against these things. Like, not, are you good at the role? Can you do director of eCommerce? Can you do supply chain?
Yeah.
But like, are you a good person? Do you meet these values? Give me examples. I need references, like, etc. Also, who we promote, who we fire, right? Like, it started actually informing how we acted and built the brand. And that's how we're at where we are today, where it's like, look, we've let go of some really incredible and talented individuals who were assholes. And like,
sure,
we like to say, like, if you're curious, optimistic, and ambitious, right, and you're a great performer because of those three, but you're not compassionate and you're not humble, you can't work here, right? And like, it's toxic for our environment and goes against why we exist if you're not mass producing positive energy with us. So we take those things really seriously. We hold ourselves to the highest standard first, try to be great role models as founders, because we really believe in those things, and then it trickles down. But again, like, we tell people every day, like, culture is the collective personality. The brothers can't see everything. So if you see somebody doing something that doesn't align with our culture and those things, then you got to call them out and give them feedback, and hopefully they improve like a coach would, or they choose not to, and unfortunately probably won't be with us in the future. So it's gone pretty deep on those things. I know
love
it's gone
that.
on a tangent,
No,
but
that was great.
uh, yeah, I think back to positive energy. That's our purpose. That's what fuels us. We put it on our packaging, all of our gear, but it's what we truly believe and aspire to produce every day.
I love that. Was it, you know, that makes a ton of sense to me and how you guys would hire and how you kind of go about your day to day. I know in my time at RX, there was, I would say like very similar hiring practices and like similar kind of ways of how they started to build that culture. A lot of, I would say a lot of similarities between the two stories between that and what you just told me. Um, did you guys find that that became more difficult once you guys went from, you know, I feel like you guys have this personality that you see on Instagram and online that you guys, I can totally see like that positive energy. Was that tougher to like encompass and spread through Zoom? Or did you guys find ways to just, you know, every meeting you guys all have to kind of, you know, be positive and drive that during COVID?
Yeah, I think we wanted to. I think just for any leader in any company, throughout a pandemic like this or just remote workforce in general, you have to be very present. So we showed up in Slack, on email, on Zoom every week. We have all hands we have all hands every Monday, to
Oh,
kick
that's
off the week,
nice.
Monday morning, and then every other Wednesday we would do an all hands just for midweek updates, midweek energy, and then
That's awesome.
end of week. What we started instilling during COVID were happy hours, virtual happy hours with the team. So we
Nice.
were in front of the team a lot, and then of course the last thing we were doing, trying to be good models, is the three of us were out in the trade probably every week last year. I mean, I probably was 48 weeks last year in a different part of the country, just spending time with our distributors and wholesalers and our team, getting actual face time, as much as we could. And then definitely once I was fully vaccinated and vaccines were out, we got this beautiful new office in Texas. This is really my first week here,
Yeah.
because I've still been out in the trade, and that's where you build the bond, you build the trust, you build culture with your people, not from your laptop at home saying, hey, you guys have to work because we need you guys to work to build the business, but I get to be here and just tell you what to do. Right. It's like, no, I'm going to go out there with you and we're going to do it together and we're going to achieve our goals together.
Love that. I've heard so much of that during COVID. I will say you guys are probably one of the only groups of founders that not the only ones, that's probably an overestimation, but like I do give you guys a lot of credit, like at least externally, not being a part of the Super Coffee team. Like you see that, like you guys are out there. You guys, it seems like you guys are always meeting with all sorts of customers, brokers, distributors. You see that even as an external person. So bravo for that. Because I do think that does like totally change the culture versus what you said, sitting behind Zoom and expecting the teams to, you know, continue performing at the level they were before COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard, right? I mean, it's really hard, but I think the cool thing is what we've learned is like, look, that's where the business is, right? Like no matter what. So like you'll never go wrong by spending time where the business is. I think there does need to be a fine balance when you're an executive running a fast growing, $100 million company. For sure. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's like the hard shit, right? That makes it really difficult. And COVID made it really harder. Is like, yeah, we would go spend 12 hours in the trade, and then we would look at financial reports at night to make sure our money was in the bank account. You know what I mean? Like to make
Yeah.
sure like we were performing, to make sure that people were feeling good, right? Dealing with the issues as we went, but still prioritizing time in the trade with your partners and your team, will pay tenfold in the future. And that's why we prioritized it.
Love it. No, I love that. And so I think the next kind of angle to steer at, love that. I think you guys are one of the few that really, in my opinion, crushed COVID in a cultural way. And then obviously the next thing from a sales perspective. So you mentioned that, sales started to dip. It was challenging for a long time, but then, the new news, which is one of the big reasons we wanted to catch up, is you guys closed another round of funding. Your valuation more than doubled. So there must have been a lot of great things that happened after we last chatted. Would you mind kind of just, what are some of the things that happened in the back half of 2020 and then obviously through really probably at least the first half of 2021 that you guys pivoted and made the most out of the situation that was COVID?
Yeah, I think two things. One, external facing, and then two, internally. I mean, externally, right? Like the vaccine provided light at the end of the tunnel, which I think everybody needed from an investor standpoint and obviously global standpoint.
Yeah.
Every citizen needed that. And then internally, our strategy worked, right? Like people stayed together, we bonded together, we worked harder, we worked smarter. We had signed a master distribution contract with Anheuser-Busch, and we supported them. We showed up for them. They showed up for us. We continued to launch new products. We decided not to pull any innovation. A lot of brands stopped innovating. We decided to double down on innovation. We launched grounds and pods last year for people who are at home, hot coffee consumption. We launched plant-based versions of our core lineup. We extended on creamers. Like, we did a lot of things that a lot of brands wouldn't do because they're considered risky.
Yeah.
But we felt that it was important for the brand, and our customers ultimately, right? Like, working from backward from the customers, we really wanted to show up in a meaningful way for our customers, and our partners, and that paid dividends. And the brand grew. Again, we were able to continue hiring. The culture got stronger. Performance was great. It wasn't where we wanted it to be. We certainly missed budget for the year by a good amount, but financially, we made other decisions. We made cuts in other areas and got efficient in other areas to make sure it wasn't horrible on the bottom line. And then coming out in, the start of this year, a lot of the same thing, a compounding effect. And I think, sales still aren't where we would like them to be. I think, we're still getting impacted, especially with Delta now over the summer. There's less seasonal spike. But what we were able to do was to show investors that, look, the brand is really strong, repaid, right? Product's great. But what you're really going to be investing in is, the team, the culture. You have full commitment from founders and leadership team here that we're going to do, no matter what happens, we're going to do whatever it takes. So if there's any uncertainty because of COVID, you can count on us. We put together a really great deck, and try to summarize all of this goodness into one really concise message. We needed the capital, right? We were burning cash. We're not profitable. But we wanted it to be our last fundraising round. So we, get to profitability, and then really not have to worry about raising capital. But so we went out and raised $100 million at $550 million valuation. Some of that,
first of all, just to stop you there, congratulations. Like, that's a monumental feat of anyone trying to start anything. So congrats to that. That's phenomenal.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you, man. It was definitely, beyond our wildest dreams. When we first started the company, we thought we'd be lucky if we could sell it for 100 million.
Yeah.
Right. We were like,
that would have been a good goal, right?
Yeah. And people were laughing at us. They're like, how are you guys going to sell it? You know what I mean? So to get that valuation is obviously great. To get the money is great, with a great partner too, who cares about us and cares about the brand and the mission. They're letting us, run it. They're not even sitting on the board, which is, I think just their trust in us is remarkable. We were able to provide liquidity, some early investors with that too. So our aunts were our first investors. I mean, they made a bet on us, very early on. I don't want to disclose financials, but changed their lives financially. So we're like, really cool to see those types of things happen from the work of the team. But ultimately, what it means, right? More pressure to perform, which we like. A lot greater expectations. If you're investing in a Series C with a $500 million valuation, they're betting on us to become a multi-billion-dollar brand, and we know that. And the team knows that too, right? We're pretty clear about that, but it gets us going, and it fuels our culture and our team. And we think we can go out and do it over the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's exciting, man. I mean, just to summarize from an external perspective, I mean, it's been wild over the last few years. I know, even earlier on in my RX days, I remember I had to connect with, and I'm blanking on his name now, but you and I connected, and then I connected. It was like, at that time, he was like your only e-com guy, just to like kind of learn a little more about Amazon, and like to see from that to where you guys, that was like in 2018, maybe.
Yeah.
This is crazy. You guys you've scaled so fast. So congrats on that. I think one of the things that stood out to me, and this would be an interesting, I'm just curious how this works. Like, a lot of people we've had on here lately, it seems like it seems like raising money has been like out of I would say like the darkest periods of COVID, the capital raises it's becoming more and more common again, which is great to see that there's money being, raised. What has it been like though? I mean, you guys have had a lot of different partners, but now it seems like you guys are getting a lot of like very high profile people involved, and like just a lot of, honestly, like celebrities and big time venture firms. Like, what has that kind of been like for you guys, as obviously, like, you started this in your dorm room to now you have people like J-Lo and A-Rod, as investors. Has that been just like has it been hard for you to like take a step back and just realize like that's pretty crazy, man? That's cool.
It's pretty crazy, right? It's surreal, I would say. When you think about it from that lens of starting the company a few years ago out of the dorm room, but you don't get caught up in it. And we try not to get caught up in it. We try to run the business and be great partners for them. And we also vet all of our partners the same way we vet employees in a way. Like
Oh,
obviously we're asking them for money, but at the same time, we don't want money if it's, not a good culture fit either.
oh, like
And
that.
yeah, so we want to make sure that investors, same thing, reference checks, right? Like how do these investors show up at board meetings? How do they show up when times get tough? How do these celebrities show up, right, in social settings in times of trial? Because we are in a pretty tough time right now. So we just want to make sure we're surrounding ourselves with great people. If they can invest capital to grow the business, great. Our responsibility is to grow the business and hopefully make them money, right? That's why they're
Yeah.
investing,
Right.
but also allow them to be a part of the mission, which is why we do it. So I think that it's a win-win for everyone involved. But again, like our job is to show up every day, grow the business, and put in the time, energy, and effort. And we work just as hard today as we did when we launched out of the dorm room. So nothing has changed from that perspective, right? So I think that's the most important thing, and why we've gotten to this point, but also I think why we're going to continue to grow the brand.
No, that makes a ton of sense. I was laughing there at the beginning when you said that. I'm envisioning you guys asking J Lo for like a reference. You're like, hey, hold on, we need to get your
Yeah,
reference. Like that's awesome. That's quite the move. No, that's wild, man. That's
I actually did though.
did you really?
No, I didn't ask J Lo for reference. Obviously, her it's pretty public who she worked with, but
Yeah.
she had worked with one of my buddies' companies, and I just reached out and said, "Look, what's it like? Like, really, what's it like? Right? Because not uh, being zealous, but like we could get the amount
Yeah.
she's investing, we could get from anybody in theory, right? But like we want to make sure that it's going to be a good partnership.
Right. There's like one thing to have the publicity. It's another thing. Like they're a partner in your business. So no, I just hats off. That's good. You'd think a lot of people they get that opportunity. Like, oh, just take it. Like, yes, that's
Yeah,
awesome. No, it's a
yeah,
smart move.
yeah, man. Yeah, but it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. Again, we're extremely fortunate and blessed, and put a lot of time in. But we give all the credit to the team. Obviously, our investors too. I mean, like they've taken bets on us and believed in us, and probably when they shouldn't they shouldn't have, but set us up for success. And that's what we want to keep striving for. We just want to make sure that we're doing right by them and the team. Right, we owe it to the team who's putting in the work to show up every day and do the same thing.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. What is this? Over $100 million is obviously a lot of money. Or what are like some of the big things that you guys through this raise are hoping to accomplish with the additional funding?
Yeah, I mean, always, for us, generally speaking, we like to innovate and renovate and improve our product lines, but that doesn't cost us a lot of money. Right? I mean, like, we're pretty lean, and we can do, a lot of cool things from a product perspective without spending a bunch of money, which I think is a great muscle that we have. But it's really sales and marketing that we're going to continue to beef up. And the key insight is like, look, while we've grown fast and we're big, we're still only sold in less than 50% of stores in our country, less than 10% of convenience stores, and even in those stores, it's only like our top 2 or 3 SKUs, right? It's not our full portfolio, and we only have sales rep. I mean, we have sales reps in just about every state, but only 1 or 2 in every state, right? Like, what does our brand look like if we have 10 sales reps in every state?
Sure.
What does our
I
brand look? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say I saw that stat on an article the other day, and I couldn't believe that. I was like, really? 40% of distribution? That I couldn't believe that. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Yeah, so there's still a lot of distribution to be gained. We're only 1 year into our Anheuser-Busch relationship. So we want to keep partnering with those guys and incentivizing them and helping build and show up in meaningful ways. We obviously want to grow the sales team, as I mentioned, because again, we built the brand by going an inch wide and a mile deep. But when you're scaling quickly, it's easy to say, hey, we just launched Safeway Seattle. We got to put one person in Safeway Seattle, but we can only afford one person. But
Yeah.
now we can, now we can put 4 or 5 people in Seattle, right? So those are the types of moves we want to make to grow the brand. And then from a marketing perspective, I mean, we'd never had more than a couple $1 million into marketing each year. So we really want to beef that up, because our brand awareness, our aided brand awareness right now is about 25%, but our unaided brand awareness is less than 5%.
Oh, wow. So
So
lots of
how do
room
we?
there too.
Ton of room there, and our net promoter score is second in all of coffee globally. So we are only second to Starbucks.
Wow.
But every other brand, Dunkin' Donuts, La Colombe, like all of these brands that everybody knows because they've been around for so many years and have cafes and have this and that, right? They have lower net promoter scores, which just means people view us as a better option, right? They view the brand as aspirational. They view the brand as a quality brand, and they're willing to spend on the brand. But we're not doing a good enough job of grabbing their attention right now. We're not doing a good enough job of showing up where they show up every day. So those are the things we're going to be spending money on. And by the way, it's meant to last us forever. It's almost forever money in the sense of we should become profitable with this capital. And if not, it's because we didn't execute. So it is meant to be our last round of fundraising. We could have went out and said, hey, like, let's raise 30 or 40 million and maybe that'll last us 2 or 3 years and we'll see what we can do. But this is
Yeah.
meant to put us in a position to be profitable and be a standalone business. Or if there's a strategic sale opportunity in the future, we can at least have options and we're not kind of pigeonholed into a corner.
So everyone listening essentially missed out on their opportunity. That you guys are done raising capital.
Unless we go public, then maybe people could make the decision to.
I was going to say, I mean, is that something, is that kind of where you guys want to take this is now?
We want to have the option, right? I think we
Yeah.
want the optionality, but we got to become profitable. I mean, there's brands out there too, right? Like Oatly's a great example of a very unprofitable food and beverage company that's public. But we want to do that. We've raised a lot of capital from investors. We've scaled pretty quickly, and we think it's the best long-term play for the business, and we can continue growing. So it's definitely an option on the table. But I think we got some hard work before that's a possibility, and that's why we raised the capital that we raised to give us the time to improve the business.
Great overview. So congratulations on that. I mean, again, I'll just say it. I mean, it was huge news. I was pumped for you guys. It's exciting to see. And it's exciting to see guys like you who are, putting positive energy out there and building something good, and it's good for you. And it's just a great brand to like either follow or be a consumer of, and to see you guys continue to, have successful raises like that is awesome. So congrats on that.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Of course. I mean, when you think of 40% of distribution, like, are there some, like, what are like the big player? And you don't have to name any specific retailers if you don't want to, if you're working on stuff, but just curious, like, what are some of like the big slam dunks that are left to really unlock at this point? Cause it seems like 60% is a lot of doors.
Right. Well, I think, again, you look at convenience, and we're less than 10%.
Yeah, that's a big one.
In convenience.
And is coffee pretty big in convenience just as a whole?
Yeah, about 49% of ready to drink sales come through the convenience.
And you're only in 10% of those doors. Wow.
Right. So we got to go compete there, and show up in a meaningful way, which is expensive. You pay slotting, right? You pay
sure, and that's not cheap. Yeah.
Right. And so we got to show up and compete. And then on the mass side, I mean, we're not showing up. We're in less than half of Walmart's right now, and it's only 2 SKUs.
Oh yeah.
And same with Kroger. Less than half of Kroger's, a couple SKUs, but we're expanding now and rolling more out. And it's really like that across the board. I mean, even Target, like, we're not in all Targets, and we have more SKUs to get. So, I mean, almost every retailer, Alberts and Safeway, we don't have great distribution at all. Probably, a quarter of their stores right now with very limited selection. So it's like when you look at the delta between us and Starbucks, their bottled portfolio, but they're a $2 billion revenue brand, right? But not only are they in every store, but they have every SKU in every store, and
sure,
in multiple parts of the store. So they own the entire home set and center store. They'll do back channel displays year round, and then upfront hydro caps year round. And then again, the Pepsi reps will sell in occasional cold space and shippers and things like that. So like, the difference is just dramatic, but the reason they can do that is because they're unlimitedly funded by Pepsi. They have the best distribution, right? Like almost no barriers, basically. And for us, it's like we're still just scratching the surface. So not only do we need to expand distribution, but we got to get more SKUs in, and then we got to do a better job of getting placement, which is also expensive in those stores, whether it be front end coolers, better home placement, back channel placement around the grocery store, etc. So long way to go. It's a nuanced game that we play for sure. Same thing with eCommerce, right? You can invest a ton in eCommerce to grow that channel, but
right.
we still want to spend tactfully and make sure we're getting a high return on ad spend.
Makes sense. All that makes a ton of sense. I mean, it's exciting to hear that too, because first of all, I didn't know that until I read that article, and then that's a great explanation. But also, um, yeah, I mean, there's just so much room there. I mean, that's wild to hear, especially hearing your competitors. I mean, that's crazy to think about. Is that, and was that a little bit like, is that the way beverage as a whole kind of works, where they'll take a bet on you for a couple SKUs and see how they do? Or was that something kind of strategic as well, that you guys were like, let's just get a couple SKUs in, a few doors, see if it works?
No, yeah, I think that's generally how beverage as we've seen show up in the early life cycle of a brand, right? Like a good comparison is Bai, what sold to
Mm-hmm.
here at Dr. Pepper for almost $2 billion a few years ago. But like when they started out, it was the same thing. They got a couple of their top SKUs in stores, and they hustled and hustled and hustled. And now today, if you go into a Target, right, 10 years, 15 years, almost 10 to 15 years after their launch, whatever, they have 20 to 30 SKUs in every store in the country, and they have hydro caps, right? So we're trying to get to
Right.
that. They did it successfully. Vitamin water is another one, right? Like same thing when they launched, they struggled, and now they're in the Coke system, and they own the category. Body Armor is doing it right now really well in the sports drink category. They just
Right.
surpassed $1 billion in revenue.
Oh, did
But
they really? Wow.
yeah, but 5 years ago they were struggling to get off the ground. So, I just think it's the nature of the beast that we play. It's a high volume game. You got to get placements, got to get great products in the door, and you need the team out there building the brand with your partners.
Right. No, that definitely makes sense. For you guys, has as you mentioned, has e-commerce become a bigger piece of your pie through COVID? Or it's been interesting because it sounds like you guys are still crushing it in retail and you have lots of room in retail. Have you kind of ridden the wave with the rest
Yeah,
of the e-com world?
yeah, it stayed relatively constant around 15 to 20% of sales. It's about 50-50 between our website and Amazon. So it's pretty good split. And it's something that we want to continue to grow. Obviously, we know retail is gonna keep growing, so it might be tough to keep that same balance of 80-20. But I think we have an amazing team on the e-com side now, and more dollars to support the business, and a better SKU mix to sell. So I think that e-com will continue to grow. I don't know if it'll keep up again with the retail growth, but I do think it's going to continue to scale for us, and that's what we're projecting, right? We want it to be 50, 60, $70 million business for us in the next couple of years. It just takes time to get there.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, it's been a wild year for ecom for sure. So you guys have distribution to gain. You have, SKUs to gain within that distribution. What else can people who are listening and maybe either know Super Coffee from before this podcast, or, just hearing for the first time today? What are some like exciting things? I know you don't have to share anything specific that isn't public, but like anything people can look forward to in the next few months or next year as far as like new and exciting things out of Super Coffee?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have a ton of new products coming out. We have seasonal flavors coming out this fall and winter, obviously, and then to kick off the new year, we got some pretty big launches coming up. We'll be doing some cool things around Super Bowl, and hopefully showing up just in every retailer where you guys go, and then you can get it online as well. So everywhere you go, every point of life, we want you seeing the brand, interacting with it. We just launched our first campaign called Add Something Positive, that's showing up on all platforms right now too. So we just want to be that authentic brand that you can rely on. If you're a coffee drinker or an energy drinker, we get a lot of people who don't drink coffee who love the brand too. So
Love it.
hopefully just showing up and for providing products that make you healthier, make you feel better, and taste great, and are just enjoyable to consume.
Love that. Love that. Obviously this is all about Super Coffee, but one of the questions I wanted to ask you that I've started asking founders, I think it's a really interesting thing to frame up here at the end, is after your time at Super Coffee is over, which I'm sure you hope, and it seems like your plan is for a very long time. What do you, Jordan, want to be remembered for?
I think servant leadership as a broad category is what I'm really passionate about, and will take with me throughout my career, in terms of the role I want to play in society and for organizations more specifically. And what I mean by that is serving a mission. So working, on a mission driven brand or organization, and then serving the people within the organization. So that's helping people grow, develop, giving them the tools, resources that they need to be successful. Because nothing's more fulfilling to me than that, right? It's the same concept, right, of giving back to others. It's my version of giving back, and then creating things that actually have value for people. But it comes from the servant leadership mindset, right? Like we make great products to serve others. And we like to say we're not in the coffee business serving people, we're in the people business serving coffee. So
Oh, love that.
it's something that that we take really seriously, and I take really seriously, and really try to put into practice every day.
Got it. Love that. I know we're getting short on time. So the last couple, I think I've asked you maybe these the last time. I can't remember if we asked these or not, but anyway, I love to always ask these.
Yeah.
For you, because yeah, you're obviously you're running a big business. So this is you got lots of stuff going on all the time. Like you said, you travel a lot. What tools do you use? Actually, I remember your answer last time. Now that I'm asking this, what
Okay.
tools do you use now to, track your goals and really accomplish daily tasks? And then, it could be apps, could be pen and paper. Just what do you use to get shit done?
Yeah, I think we try to we try to streamline the process, really performance management for the company. So we do use some software internally that is best suited for organizations, obviously, but individually, I just think in terms of best practices, um, some sort of document, whether it be a spreadsheet or just a Google Doc or Microsoft Word doc, where you're writing out long-term goals with short-term benchmarks that you're looking at every day, and you're benchmarking yourself on. So we like to have annual goals, but I also have a 5-year goal document. I think beyond 5 years, you can have a vision board and think, philosophically about where you want to go
Sure.
and what you want to do, but you want to create room for flexibility. It's hard to see beyond 3 to 5 years. So something that you can clearly state your goals, benchmark your progress, hold yourself accountable to them, share them with others, right? Like create plans under those goals, etc. So that's just one general thing in terms of like good goal setting practice for us. And then the other thing is some sort of process with yourself, whether it be daily or weekly, and your teams, right? If you're managing people, just make sure you're stepping back on a regular basis, giving yourself the time to think about like, why am I aiming for this goal? Is this still relevant 2 months after I said it, right? Like, can I adjust it maybe? Am I making progress towards it? What am I missing? What's standing in my way? What can I do to make more progress? So that way, all of your actions are always tied back to your goals. You never want to be the person who has this beautiful document of goals that you dust off every 6 months and say,
Sure.
what happened here? Right. You want to make it very practical and more of like a guide than anything. So that's been super transformative for me. And then um, using, tools like Google Calendar and things like that to stay organized so I'm staying on track.
Got it. Love that. What about favorite book or a podcast or source of knowledge? Anything new that you've read or done lately that you'd like to recommend to the audience?
Yeah, I for this conversation, probably, I have a variety of podcasts I listen to. Just love listening to great leaders. But Masters of Scale podcast by Reid Hoffman is a great one because you get Reid's perspective as one of the great founders and entrepreneurs of the past probably 30 years, 20 years, and then all of his guests that he is on, which is incredible group of people that I've learned a lot from listening to. And then book, there's so many amazing business and leadership and books that I could talk about. I tend to have a recency bias when this question comes up because
Sure.
every book I read, I love.
The
But
same way.
one that's probably made a great impact that is relevant for everyone too is Principles by Ray Dalio. And I think we
Love that book.
too. Just so practical. Like he's got hundreds of principles in there, and they're not all going to apply to everyone, but you're going to find some really good ones that will apply for you. And if you put them into practice and just take his process, right, the way he thinks about writing his principles out and going back to them and putting them into practice, you'll find value in them. So I do recommend that a lot because I think everyone can find value from that book.
Love it. No, it's a great one. Appreciate that. The last one is really how can people follow you and how can people get involved and try Super Coffee?
Yeah, man. I think the best platform right now for us is Instagram, at Drink Super Coffee, and then just at Jordan DeCicco on Instagram as well. And if you want to go a little bit deeper, we're on all platforms, right? Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, etc.
You guys are on TikTok. That's right. You guys are on definitely on the TikTok.
TikTok cranks. which is great, great platform for us. But and then hopefully showing up in your retailers if you want to try the product. But drinksupercoffee.com, again, like we talked about e-commerce, you can try any product, you can bundle and save, you can sign up for subscription, etc. Like if you really want to try the product and have it make a meaningful impact in your life, definitely recommend giving the product a try on our website.
Love that. I appreciate it. I will, I'll link all that stuff in the show notes for anyone listening. So you can go try Super Coffee. And we didn't really talk about it, but just want to say congrats on the move to Austin. I know last time we talked, you were like, guys were like thinking about some different cities, and I saw the
Yeah,
office from Instagram. Looks amazing. So very
thanks.
cool.
Yeah, well, it was one of my 3-year goals actually, was to move out of New York City. I
Oh,
just
was it
didn't
really?
know. Yeah, I just didn't know which one, and it's centrally located. It's really warm. Everybody's great down here. We have a new facility, a new headquarters. So thank you, dude. It's nice. It's refreshing to have a backyard
Yeah.
again.
Oh, I bet it's a big difference from New York. I can only imagine.
Yeah, man, it is, and we're grateful for it. So, if anybody's ever in Austin, if you're ever in Austin, obviously hit us up. We'll get together for sure.
Love to. Yeah, definitely need to make a trip down there, and we'll see you guys for sure. Well, Jordan, thank you so much, man. I appreciate the time, and congrats on all your guys' continued success. And we'll keep watching and keep drinking the coffee, man.
Hey, Shane,
All
appreciate you,
right.
brother. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.